Hey VC, Midge here, guy in a hat who likes to talk about Record Store Day. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Midge, why are you doing a Record Store Day video? They've been done to death. They've been done over the years. Everything has been analysed. Everything has been debated and argued about between the shops and the suppliers, the record labels, the expense, the queuing, the limited editions, the too many releases. And actually, you're right. There's no point doing a Record Store Day video, is there? Oh well. See you on the next video. Take care. Actually, while I'm here, I might as well do it. And I've always wanted to do one. And I'm not going to do any of that debating or anything like that. I mean, if you like Record Store Day, you like Record Store Day, don't you? It's like me clicking on a Nick Cave video and expecting there to be no Nick Cave content. I mean, you know what I mean? If you like Record Store Day, you'll watch this video. If you don't like Record Store Day, you won't. Simple as that, isn't it? So what I thought I'd do is I'll go through the list and I'll tell you what I'm interested in. It might be quite interesting in a way because it's quite funny. I always adopt the same process with Record Store Day every year. And the first stage is this stage and the list comes out. I'll look through it. I write everything down that I'm interested in. And then a couple of weeks later, the retail prices come out and my list basically halves, if not drops to 3/4 of what I was going to get. Because I'm not being ripped off. Record Store Day is one of those things where if you're patient, and record collecting is all about being patient, I always think. If you're not worried about missing out, if it's something that you really want, go for it. And it's something that you've been waiting for years, get it. Fear of missing out and all that. But if you're patient, some of these releases end up being in the sales, and a lot of RSD stuff goes in sales now. And because I'm usually only interested in the reissue side of things, then these are the titles that do tend to end up being in the sales because nobody wants them apart from weirdos like me. And for example, a 70s album last year on the RSD list, which I thought was extremely expensive, I ended up getting it for less than half price just after Christmas. So if you're patient, and then sometimes it does work in your favour. So I'm going to quit the waffle. I'm going to go through the list and I'm going to tell you the things that I'm interested in as it stands at the moment before the prices come out. So I'm going to go through it and I'm going to try not to I'm going to try to talk about the stuff that I'm interested in and nothing else, but I might just sneak a few things in there if they're interesting. So basically, this is the stuff that I've been through on the list that I'm interested in, and I'll put little album covers up there to show you as I go through. So I'm just using my phone now and I'm going through the list. And the first one is Amusement Park Deluxe Edition. Not heard this album, but it looks interesting. It's from '82, and I think it's going to be one of those sort of soul funk type things. Hopefully, a bit like Rick James, that sort of thing. A bit of '80s funk and soul. So that looks cool. It's on gold vinyl, and it's now fetching decent money amongst collectors apparently, but I've never heard of it. So that looks interesting. I quite fancy trying that one. Next one. Oh, Badfinger No Dice is coming out as well. Really recommend that album, but I've already got it. But yeah, that's a great one on the list. Next one is Blonde on Blondes Rebirth. I've heard this album. I have seen copies of it in the wild, but it always goes for quite a lot of money. So this is something that I'm interested in. There's a classic track on here, like a classic psych track called Castles in the Sky, which is brilliant. So check that out if you've not heard it before. This is apparently a deluxe vinyl package including Obi side spine, original artwork, printed in a sleeve, and crystal clear amber vinyl from 1970. So yeah, I'm very interested in picking up a copy of that one. Next up, you got Blur's Live at the Budokan. I think that's only been available on CD before, but I'm not a big one for live albums. Live albums and RSD, I don't know why people fall for it every year, but they're terrible. You get people saying, "Oh, look, this looks interesting, this live version from 1976," and then the next video they do, it's like, this sounds terrible, it's awful. So I always avoid Record Store Day live albums, and there's too many of them. In my opinion, and it's the same for soundtracks. They do some good soundtracks every now and again, but the prices are astronomical. It's just daft. Anyway, next up, Captain Beefheart and the Magic Band, Lick My Decals Off Baby. I do have this album as well, but this is a 2 LP set and it's got lots of instrumentals and outtakes on it. Again, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to check the track listing when more details come out about it. It's a very underrated Beefheart album in my opinion. It's like a scaled back track mass replica, so it's more of the same, but it doesn't have the 2 disc sprawling type thing. But it's a great album. The only thing with Captain Beefheart RSD releases are they're very expensive usually, and again, this is a release that I might hold back on because Beefheart RSD titles tend to end up in sales all the time. And I think a couple of the gaps I've had that have been from RSD, I've got in sales, so I might hold back on that one. And like I said, I've already got the album anyway, but if it's a 2 LP set and it's got extra tracks and it looks nice, I might upgrade. So that's one I'm going to keep an eye on, I think. Next up, one of those releases I've heard a lot about. It's got a great story behind it. I've never actually heard it, so I'm going to have to give it a listen before I decide whether or not to add it to my official list. And it's Chris Lucy's Song of Protest and Anti-Protest. It's got a great backstory, this album, to it. I'm not going to go into it now, so it'll take too long, but bizarrely got Brian Jones on the cover, and it's not the artist it says it is, but it's like a psychedelic folky type singer-songwriter album. So I'm interested in that. So that's another one I'm going to add to the list, but I am going to listen to it first before I take the plunge. So that's another one that I'll add to the list. Next one is Colonel Bagshot, Oh What a Lovely War. Again, I've got this album, and it's a great album. It's sort of like heavy rock, singer-songwriter. So obviously it's a band from Liverpool, but I don't think this album was ever released in the UK. I think it only came out in the States. And it's a great album. It's like heavy rock with psych touches. It's most famous for having DJ Shadow take the concept of the song 6 Day War and he turned it into 6 days for his Private Press album. Absolutely killer track. He made an amazing version of it, but the original is just as good, and it's on this album. And the repress has got a 7-inch single, and it's on splattered vinyl. Again, it's going to be one of them ones where obviously I've already got it, but it does look nice, so it's like another upgrade type thing. So that might be towards the bottom of the list. It might drop off depending on how many other things I want, but that looks interesting. It looks nice enough to have an upgrade of, because I've always liked the album. Next up is a reggae album, Congo Ashanti. First repress of a 1979 European cover, colour vinyl, gatefold sleeve, yellow vinyl with red splatter. The only Congo albums that I've got is Heart the Congos, and I love that album. So I thought this might be worth checking out as well. So yeah, I'll be keeping my eye on the price for that. And that looks interesting as well, though I'm not going to buy it. The Crosby, Stills and Nash box set, which features the first album from each artist, and they're all brilliant. I've got them all, so I'm not really interested in the box set, but I think the box set comes with an extra LP of like outtakes and sessions from all those 3 albums. But if you haven't got the first solo albums from each of those band members, they are all great, so that's worth checking out. Let's see what's next. There's a Darkness Live album, probably be quite expensive. I've got all the studio ones, so like I say, I'm not that fussed on live albums, to be honest, although I have seen them live and they are great live. Next up, this is really interesting. I've not heard it before. It's a collaboration between Chuck D of Public Enemy and John Densmore of The Doors, and that's a really strange, unlikely pairing, and it comes under the moniker Dope, which is a cool mixture of The Doors typography logo and Public Enemy's logo. So yeah, it's a collaboration. I don't know anything about it other than it says, blending spoken word, rhythm and raw social commentary, the record bridges generations of rebellion and reflection. Sounds really interesting. Housing a deluxe gatefold package featuring original illustrations by Chuck D himself. So yeah, that looks really interesting. I mean, very unlikely pairing. That's, a drummer and a hip hop artist, it sounds very interesting. That's definitely one that I'm going to see if I can hear any stuff from and check it out. The Funkadelic album on picture disc. I'm not that keen on picture disc, but again, a great album. This one I'm not going to buy either, but I'm surprised it's on here. There was a lot of hype around this band at the time, and I did actually buy this album when it came out. And it's Gay Dad's Leisure Noise. One of those bands that were really hyped made this album. I think they had a couple of chart singles, but then just promptly disappeared again. But it's been reissued on Record Store Day for the first time since this was issued in '99. But I wasn't aware there was a Gay Dad revival going on, so that's quite interesting. There's another 2 releases from George Harrison in the Zoetrope. I think they're doing Zoetropes of all of his albums, and the next 2 are on Record Store Day. Not really that fussed on that format. Next one I'm interested in is Gil Scott-Heron's Reflections. I've got loads of Gil Scott-Heron albums. Absolutely love him. But this is a gap that I've always had, and this particular album, the prices for it have really risen. So it's from 1981. It's probably, it's recognised as one of his best albums, but it's been out of print for years and years, and I don't think it's really been any reissues either. So this looks like an interesting one. Deluxe vinyl package, Obi side spine, original artwork, printed in a sleeve, and purple marble effect colour vinyl. So that's one I'm going to be looking out for. There's also a Goblin singles collection box set out. I'm probably going to be quite expensive, but that does look interesting. Now, another one I'm really interested in, and this is probably my top pick of this year's Record Store Day, and it's Ike White's Changing Times. I don't know if you've ever heard this album, but if you haven't, it's really worth checking out. It's like a mixture of Shuggy Otis inspiration, information, and sort of the way Tim Buckley, I'm thinking like Happy Sad, where he made these really beautiful languid drifting type soundscapes and instrumentals, obviously without the vocals. So if you imagine like Buzzing Fly and things like that, it's got that sort of vibe to it, but obviously more in a soul and funk type genre. The album's got a mixture of vocals and instrumentals, but it's really cool, and I've been after a copy of this for years. It goes for hundreds and hundreds of pounds. I think it was only ever released in the US, so I've never seen one, never been able to track one down. And it was recorded while Ike White was in prison as well, so I think there's a documentary either coming out or it's already come out about Ike White. I think the album was recorded in prison, but it's a superb album. If you've never heard it, check it out. It's really cool. So that I'm really looking forward to that one. In fact, I shouldn't be telling you this, should I? Because I don't want to give all my tips and I get to the store on the day and they've all sold out. So if you live in Sheffield and you're thinking of going to Record Store Day, the Ike White album is shit. Honestly, don't even bother. Don't pick it up. I'll get it for you, and if it's any good, I'll let you know. See, thinking. Anyway, yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that. But next up, and more reggae, there's a Jackie Matu album, In Cold Blood. First repressed since '79, red vinyl. Killer selection of rhythms provided by the Aggravators. And I like Jackie Matu, and, I think I should have more Jackie Matu in my collection. So I'll be looking out for the price on that one as well. This is another interesting one that I am really interested in, but I'm probably not going to pick up because I know for a fact it's going to be really expensive. And it's the second release, and I didn't know they were doing any more, of John Lennon's meditation mixers. If you're unaware of them, when they did that huge reissue campaign for Mind Games a couple of years ago, they did a one-off sort of 3 LP set that focused on Sean Ono Lennon doing John Lennon's Mind Games, but for like meditation and things like that. So they're basically soundscapes. So what Sean Lennon did was he took stems of the recording of Mind Games, for example, a guitar line or a vocal of John's or an organ line, and he sort of stretched them out into sort of like meditative pieces that went on for like sometimes 25 minutes. And he also put a few mantras at the end of the album, which was like short looped grooves of 2 seconds and stuff. It was a really interesting project. I did get a copy of it. I'm going to do a video on it soon, but it was very expensive. It was about 100 quid for a 3 LP set, and there was no way I was going to buy that. But again, it's one of those patience things where I thought, if I feel like that, probably a lot of other people will feel like that, unless you're a diehard John Lennon fan. So I sat and waited, and I did manage to get one for below half price, so I was really made up with that. And this is the second edition of it, but it focuses on the track Love. So I'm guessing it's the same thing. He'll be taking samples and stems of the track and just mixing them into long sort of meditative remixes. The blurb on here says, I think it's exactly the same, 9 reimagined meditation mixes of John Lennon's 1970 classic ballad Love, plus 9 unique 2-second mantras that loop infinitely on a side of Run Out Grooves. That's like the first album. Produced by Sean O'Neill Lennon, available on iridescent Pearl Arctic 180 transparent vinyl in a triple gatefold lilac mirrorboard sleeve. Try saying that when you're drunk. And yeah, I am interested in this. It does look cool, and I really enjoyed the first one, but I'm not paying 100 quid for it, and I'm almost definitely sure it's going to be in that same sort of price bracket. So again, this might be one that a sitter, as I call them, a sitter, you might have to sit and wait for a bit, because I'm sure this isn't going to sell out on the day or even in the weeks after, but you never know. But yeah, I mean, I am interested in that one. So like last year, Charlie Records are doing another reissue of National Health, which are one of the Canterbury bands. They have people from Hatfield in the North and Caravan, Dave Sinclair, Pip Pyle, Steve Miller. It's a second National Health album. They did the first one last year, which I got. So again, I'll probably look out for that one. I don't think that was a bad price anyway. So they're doing the second album of Cues and Cures. So I think I'll probably pick that one up as well. I've heard this one. I don't know how, a couple of years ago, I think, but I do remember it. An album from 1972 by the band Peregrine, and it's called Songs of Mine. And I think it's the first time that's been reissued since the 70s. But I seem to remember it was pretty good. It was like 3 guitarists. It was all acoustic, I seem to think. They had really good sort of like harmonies that blend, all the voices blended together, and it was like a pleasant series of quite catchy folk songs. So again, that's something that I might be interested in, depending on the price. You've got a Pink Floyd live album, 4 LP box set, so that's bound to be really pricey. 4 LP clear, LP vinyl, Pink Floyd live from the Los Angeles Sports Arena 1975. So I'm guessing this will be Wish You Were Here type material. Yeah, looks good, but it'll be way out of my price range, that one. Next up, a hip-hop release, Poor Righteous Teachers, The New World Order. I think it's their second album. 30th anniversary 2 times translucent green coloured vinyl. Hasn't been issued anywhere since 96. Yeah, I seem to remember they were good back in the day, although I can't remember what the album sounds like. So that's something I'll be checking out, see if that's worth picking up again. You've got Primal Scream's Echo Deck. I seem to remember when that originally came out, it was in a small 7-inch single box set. It's the dub versions of Adrian Sherwood of the Vanishing Point album. So can't remember if it was any good or not. So that one I might, may get on the list. I'm not sure. And again, you've got another release on George Harrison's Dark Horse Records. I think it originally came out on Apple. The Radha Krishna Temple from London. I'm not sure if that's worth picking up. I do quite like a lot of Indian music. So, and you've also got the Apple connection and stuff. So I might check that one out too. So Soul Jazz normally do a few compilations on the RSD list. What they tend to be though is they tend to be coloured versions, so it tends to be that they bring them out for Record Store Day, and then there's another release later on in the year on black vinyl. There's one called Power Pop, American Power Pop for the Now Generation 77 to 81. That sounds right up my alley. Again, I'll have to see on the price on that. I think it's on limited one-off pressing on heavyweight single red vinyl and download code. That sounds right up my alley, so I'll be looking out for that one. Next, there's another soul and funk reissue. This one's South Shore Commission. I'm not sure what year that's from. Essential debut from Chicago's disco funk pioneers, which sounds good to me. All about the disco and all about the funk. So remastered, transparent purple vinyl. Yeah, that sounds interesting. So I'll definitely be checking that one out and having a listen. Next up is an album that I've tried to buy a few times on eBay, but I've always been outbid for it. And it's like a disco album, and it sort of disco and sort of Rick James, Parliament type, late 80s type music. And it's a band called Spunk, believe it or not, and it's called Tighten It Up. And I have heard it, not for a while, and I seem to remember it was really good. Missing link between P-Funk disco and early Chicago club culture. 1 LP remastered transparent red vinyl. So I think that's going to be on the list. Long out of print and increasingly hard to find. Like I say, I have been outbid for it on eBay a couple of times. And I was thinking of picking it up straight away because I'm telling you this, there's no way I'm going in after record store day and going up to the bloke behind the counter and saying, have you got any spunk left? Because I ain't doing it, all right? I'm not falling for it. Not again, not after last time. So next up, reissue by The Streets, Computers and Blues. I really liked The Streets back in the day, and I bought his last couple of recent albums. This was the 5th album because at the time Mike Skinner said he was only going to do 5 Streets albums, and this was the last one. And I seem to remember at the time that when it got to his 4th album, I think his popularity was waning quite a bit, so they didn't bother reissuing that on vinyl at the time. And this last album, Computers and Blues, they didn't do on vinyl either. And I'm stubborn about this sort of thing. If you don't release it on vinyl, I don't buy it. Simple as that. I'm a bit nutty like that. So never released on vinyl before, so I'm quite keen to pick that up, to be honest, just for a completist type thing, because like I say, I like The Streets, and it'd be nice to have them all. And that's on yellow vinyl, I think. Yeah, 5th album, pressed on yellow vinyl, limited to 2,000 copies. And then there's the solo album by Tina Harvey. It's on Trading Places, who do a lot of sort of like obscure prog and rock and folk from the 70s. I've never heard this album, so this looks interesting, and I love the cover. She's got like that fag in her mouth, like, all right, darling, you all right? You got that rent money for me? You know, that sort of thing. So I don't know what she sounds like, but from the cover, you probably expect it to sound a bit croaky, a bit Janis Joplin maybe. And it's on Jonathan King's UK Records label, which I never liked that label, and Jonathan King's, but he released some early 10cc albums and singles on his label, didn't he? He had that really sort of garish blue UK Records label, didn't it? With the sort of crown on top of the United Kingdom, really garish label. Anyway, that looks quite interesting, so I'll be checking that one out as well. There's loads of compilations as well. The only one that really stood out for me was the Stax one, the Killer Bees one, which looked interesting. But and the Funk and Soul Instrumentals 1967, that looked quite interesting as well. But I think that's more or less it, to be honest with you. That's the end of my Fool's Paradise list. Hang on, one more. The Who, a quick one. I've got this on CD, and I know what I've just said about CDs, but occasionally some bands will do a reissue campaign that is so good on CD that you can't pass it up. And I seem to remember when the Who's album, was it in the 90s? Can't remember, but they did all of the Who's albums superb, and they had like almost another album's worth of outtakes for each one. So the Who Sell Out was amazing, and a quick one, they did the full Live at Leeds. So I did pick those up, so, sorry, but sold out a bit there. But they are really cool, and the quick one, I've got it on vinyl, obviously, I've had it for years, but the CD version had a lot of cool stuff on it, like it had the Ready Steady Who EP on it and things like that. Now this RSD release is a 2 LP set, and it sort of copies the CD remaster version with all the bonus tracks on, and they're really cool. So I'm quite tempted by that, just to have a copy on vinyl, and I can get rid of the dreaded CD. get rid of that out of the collection. I can stay true to my roots of vinyl only. So yeah, I think that is it. So like I was saying, that's my sort of intro to RSD. I do it every year. So basically, I get the list, I write down everything I fancy. It's far too many, far too much, and then in a couple of weeks' time, the price list comes out, and I think I ain't paying that for that. I ain't paying that for that, and the 3/4 of what I put on the list tends to vanish. So it's going to be interesting to see if the same thing happens again this year. So what I might do is I might do a follow-up video for this and just tell you how the list is going on once the prices come out. And then it's obviously in April, there'll be the day itself, and sometimes you're disappointed, sometimes you get everything you want, sometimes you don't. But it's going to be interesting to see how the list has changed from this initial I'll have everything list to how it is actually on the day. So that should be quite interesting. Well, I think it's interesting anyway. If you don't think it's interesting, then you don't have to watch it, do you? Simple. Not tied to it. You're not tied to a contract, are you? You've no Patreon here. There's no subscriptions. Go your merry way. Anyway, if you have stayed to the end, thank you very much. And I'll see you on the next video. And it might be Record Store Day related. It might not, because no one might watch this. And no one watches the end of these videos anyway. So, see you next time. All the best.